Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers with another running shoe versus. In this video, we are going to be looking at the Nike Vaporfly 4 and the New Balance SC Elite V5. Let's have a look. The New Balance SC Elite V5 costs £260 or $264.99. It weighs 202 grams or 7.1 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 8mm. The Nike Vaporfly 4 costs £239.99 or $270. It weighs 171 grams or 6 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. New Balance's carbon-plated speed shoe has seen a number of changes across each generation of the shoe. The SC Elite V5 is no exception, moving away from the bulkier, comfortable V4 to a leaner race option. The PEBA midsole is now narrower than its predecessor with a noticeable drop in weight, aiming to provide a faster experience on race day. That foam works alongside a new carbon plate design that's now stiffer in the forefoot to improve propulsion. There's also an updated outsole to improve the traction of the shoe and a single layer of phantom fit mesh upper to provide comfort and breathability without adding weight. Unlike many race shoes, it is also available in a wide version. Nike has made some big changes in the fourth version of one of the world's most popular race shoes, aiming to focus development on producing a noticeably lighter shoe than its predecessors. That's been achieved by trimming the outsole, midsole and modifying the upper, removing around 5mm of stack height compared to the Vaporfly 3. Nike also says that the ZoomX foam used is lighter than the previous version, and the carbon fibre plate is positioned at a higher angle than that used in the Vaporfly 3, which works alongside a lower heel-to-toe drop to improve the propulsion of the shoe. The upper is made from a lightweight engineered mesh with a new reduced sized heel and tongue, and the outsole sees a thinner layer of rubber across the length of the shoe.
Fit then, and I ran in a UK 8.5 in both shoes. That's a US 9 in the New Balance, but a 9.5 in the Nike. For the Vaporfly 4, I felt the fit was good overall, with a good balance of hold and flex. The uppers wrap nicely, but move and flex with your foot. So although the fit is race hugging, it's got that kind of dialed in race fit. They do avoid feeling cramped or too squished, like some carbon race shoes can come up a little bit too snug and a bit too tight. At times when I didn't pay enough attention to lacing, I did sometimes experience a little bit of heel slipping, but that's something that's easily fixed by lashing down the laces more precisely, so just pay attention to that. And I think I'd stay true to size in the Nike. For the New Balance, the fit in the UK 8.5 is pretty good for length, but it's narrow, or a little bit narrow even for a sort of race fit in terms of the overall kind of width and stuff. So it's a bit too tight and a bit hugging. It does mean you get good locked in security. There's no movement at all in the heels or the midfoot. And I can get away with running in it, but I think I would definitely benefit from either the wide option or going half a size up in this shoe, particularly to use it over longer distances. Anything over like an hour on feet, I'd probably want to have a bit more room there.
So fit for me in these two shoes, I'm a size 8 in the UK. I've got both of these in the UK size 8. Pretty similar in terms of size. In fact, I would say the space between my big toe in both of them is pretty similar. Maybe a little bit extra space in the Vaporfly 4, but pretty much spot on for both of those. And I have had problems in the past with earlier versions of the Elite, in that I've found them to be quite shallow in the forefoot, and I've had rubbing. No issues like that in the SC Elite V5. I found it to be quite comfortable. The width across the shoe, Vaporfly 4 was actually pretty roomy for a carbon plate ratio that's really lean. I definitely found that there's a lot more space in the forefoot than I expected from it. And the midfoot is pretty comfortable. It doesn't feel too narrow to me. So yeah, it's probably a bit roomier than what I expected from this shoe. So I definitely stay to my UK size 8 in the Vaporfly 4. Nice little bit of padding around the back as well, and a really lean bit on the tongue, but very comfortable shoe all round for the sorts of runs that I do in it. SC Elite V5, pretty similar. It's a bit of a narrow shoe, which is why, or guessing why, New Balance has released a wide version of this shoe, which is nice for a lot of people. I know it's one of the big plus points of this shoe. We've had comments about that before. A bit more padding on the ankle collar and back, but pretty similar cushioning generally all round. So quite similar shoes, both of these. I just say the SC Elite V5 is slightly more narrow, so you might not look at the wider version, but I'd stay to my UK size 8 or your size in either of these shoes. Okay, so these two shoes are pretty similar now. The SC Elite range, or the RC SC Elite range, if you go back a bit, is a shoe that changes massively over the last few versions. Every time New Balance release it, they seem to radically change it into an almost different shoe, which can be a little bit annoying to people who really like the previous version of the shoe and a bit confusing if they get the new one. The SE Elite V5 is no exception. It's a big change from the SE Elite V4. The V4 was very much a accessible, wide, cushioned, comfortable shoe that really works well for longer runs. It didn't feel fast, it didn't feel nippy, but if you're going to do a marathon or half marathon or something, you wanted comfort and you wanted a bit of bounce and you wanted a nice soft feel, it was great for that. The S Elite V5 is very different. It is leaner, it's more narrow, especially in the midsole. It feels it has updates to things like the carbon plate in it to make it a bit more propulsive, and as a result, the ride is completely different than the S Elite V4. It feels very much like, well, very similar to the Vaporfly 4 actually, which is much more of a nimble, lighter feeling race shoe as opposed to a bigger, chunkier shoe, which the SE Elite V4 was. Now, both of these shoes are shoes that they are similar in a lot of ways. I actually took the SE Elite V5 out earlier for parkrun just to remember how it feels at shorter distances. I have used it for a half marathon, I used it for the big half, and I've used it for a few park runs as well. Feels very nice on the feet. It feels like what you expect from a fast, lightweight carbon plate shoe. It feels nippy, but it doesn't feel massively bouncy to me, and it doesn't particularly feel, because of this sort of narrower midsole, it doesn't feel like there's lots of support like you got in the SE Elite V4. The Vaporfly 4. Now this shoe it's a funny one, Vaporfly 4. I'm not really a big fan of Vaporfly 4. There have been changes to this, including the stack height. And I think if you're looking at the previous versions of the shoe, Vaporfly 2 is one of the best shoes ever released, one of the shoes that everybody ran races in the last few years. But the 3 was really soft, didn't really enjoy the 3. I felt like it didn't have any energy in it, and it's definitely a shoe that was designed for longer training, or you could run marathons and half marathons in it. It just didn't feel like the foam was doing a lot for me. I didn't enjoy that. The Vaporfly 4 has really shifted a bit, so it's got less stack height. It feels like a shoe now that's very much tailored towards, for the general runner, shorter distances. And I always think it's sort of a 10k shoe, maybe up to a half marathon shoe for some people, but for me, I would never race a half marathon. But for me, I would never race a marathon in the shoe, just because it hasn't got the cushioning, it hasn't got the bounce, and it's quite a narrow midsole as well, so it doesn't really have the support as well that a lot of people might want from a longer distance shoe. Shorter distances, it feels very nippy, it feels very light on the feet, and it feels like a quick shoe. It's just not a shoe that I feel has a lot of standout elements to it now. I think it's just a good, lightweight, fast shoe. It doesn't feel like you particularly get loads from the plate, and it doesn't feel like the Zoom X is particularly doing a lot either, especially presumably because it's lost a bit of that stack height. So similar in a lot of ways. I think there's a bit more bounce to the SE Elite V5. I think it's a bit softer. It's a funny one because I find that if I try and land on the heel, I do really notice the softness in this midsole foam. If I don't, because I'm a midfoot striker, I don't notice it as much. It doesn't feel that soft to me, but that foam is definitely soft. But for me, it's nowhere near as soft as the SE Elite V4, because that shoe had loads of foam in it, so you really noticed it if you were landing on the side or the forefoot, whereas this is just a bit leaner, so it doesn't feel like a soft shoe, but it's definitely got a softer foam in it than the Vaporfly 4. So I would say between these two shoes, the Vaporfly 4 is very much a shoe designed for short distances for me that isn't really exceptional in any way, especially when you compare it with a lot of the carbon plate race shoes at the moment that really do a lot, things like the Speed Sky Tokyo. It's just a very solid, lightweight, fast, shorter distance racer. And I know the Streetfly exists, but I think this is more, I'd probably say this is better suited to like 10 to half marathon distance, or if you 5k if you wanted to. Whereas the SE Elite V5, I probably, because it's got a bit more cushioning in it, because I don't really need loads of support and stability in terms of the width of that midsole, I'd be happy to run a marathon in this, but it wouldn't be one of my top options. I think it's fine for it. I just don't think it's got as much as some other shoes have got that I'd much rather wear. The outsole on both of these shoes, the Vaporfly 4 has a pretty solid outsole actually. The front of it has a really thick layer of rubber all the way across the front section of it. And the back has these two rubber bits, which I'm normally quite nervous of, because I normally rip I supinate a bit, and I normally rip the back section of the shoe off. But this is held up. I've done about 50-60k in this shoe now, and it's held up with a bit of wear and tear. pretty impressed with that. It's not the grippiest shoe out there on the back. The front's pretty good. The SC Elite V5, really good outsole actually. It's a similar level of rubber on it, but it's just quite a tacky level of rubber. It's quite thin, but it does have little luggy bits on as well. And the rubber on the outsole is really solid. Does a good job. Quite thick, that rubber on the back section. So I would say the rubber on the SC Elite V5 is superior to the Vaporfly 4.
On the run test then, I've done north of 40 miles in the Nike Vaporfly 4 and close to 30 miles in the New Balance SC Elite V5. Done those right across the pace range, plenty of long time on feet, you know, those sort of 90-minute marathon training runs where I've got marathon pace sections built in. I've done interval sessions moving at 5 and 10k pace. For my Vaporfly 4 testing, I also did an all-out 10-mile race where I set a new PB over that distance as well. I've also logged some shorter, slower runs in both to test how they are when you're moving a little bit more ragged or a bit more slow, landing a bit heavier. Now, the New Balance SC Elite V5, I think is a good update. It feels lighter and faster to me, though it is less stable and reliable underfoot than its predecessor, particularly when you're landing further back in the heel, where I find it all a bit loose and a bit squishy. There's not much control. I get a little bit of rolling out to the lateral side as well because of the sort of the softness there. It does deliver a ride that is very soft. It's quite bouncy, with a responsiveness that I find more pronounced when you're engaging the shoe close to the front, sort of further up to that mid to forefoot. But it's definitely not as out and out propulsive as the very fastest super shoes on the market. I think that has its in common with the Nike Vaporfly 4. Neither of them are as aggressive, I think, as the likes of the Fast R3 from Puma, or as bouncy as the Asics Metaspeed Tokyo, Edge or Sky, or the Hoka Cielo X2, or in fact the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. Now, compared to the Vaporfly 4, I think that bigger stack on the Elite V5, it adds a bit more weight, though it is less noticeable on the foot than it is on the scales. And, you know, what you're getting back from that is more road protection from the added foam underfoot, and a bit more calf protection as well is going to come in from that higher drop. But the Vaporfly 4, I think, definitely gives you a bit more ground feel. It's more connected. It's still snappier to engage, even though the stiffer forefoot of the Elite V5 now moves that closer to the Vaporfly than you got from the Elite V4. The other thing I noticed from doing a sort of slightly wet side-by-side mile is the grip on the Elite V5, I think, is more reliable than the Vaporfly 4. The Vapor's grip does a good job, but I think the Elite V5 is notable. It's pretty excellent, actually. With the Nike Vaporfly 4, I really like how reliable the landings are. The transitions feel smooth. It's a bit more natural, I find, than the Elite V5. There's energy here without any wildness. It's not too unstable. I certainly think I could run 26.2 in them if I was in good shape and I wanted to go for it, but I personally like shoes that are going to be a bit close to the ground, a bit more snappy, a bit more responsive. A lot of runners may well find that the Vaporfly doesn't really have the cushion they want to go longer than anything up to a half marathon. Certainly if you're looking for protection and cushion for the last sort of miles of a longer, sort of maybe 4-hour plus marathon, I think there are probably other shoes that are going to deliver more of that, and I think the SC Elite V5 is probably one of them. It's going to be a bit more protective from the road impact, if not from the stability angle. I like that the Vaporfly 4 have a sort of slightly more minimal feeling. They're a bit closer to the ground with, well connected. You've got some added firmness and snap to the ride. Verdict then, and I think both of these shoes are good race day options, certainly up to half marathon distances. Not everyone will enjoy the direct feel of the Vaporfly 4 for the full marathon, I don't think, and the SC Elite V5 will likely suit more runners as a more comfortable option on those sort of longer efforts where you're going to be over maybe 90 minutes on feet. Certainly runners who like some extra softness and want speed and softness together. But if you prioritise sort of maximum pop and energy and the lightest weight for racing, for the shorter and faster efforts, I think like the mile and the 5k, I think I'd be more tempted by the snappiness and the agility and that kind of ground feel of the Vaporfly 4. I think they certainly handle sort of cornering better if you're on a tight and twisty course as well. If you're looking for a shoe that's going to mix energy and efficiency with road protection over the long haul, the SC Elite V5 is probably the shoe to choose from these two. Though, as I said, I think fans of a more controlled, kind of connected ride who don't mind a bit of directness will prefer the Vaporfly. The SC Elite probably offers the better range overall, I would say, in terms of how many sort of different distances and races speeds and all that kind of stuff you would use it for. For many runners, it will likely cover a bigger variety of those runs and races on that kind of platform. But it's a bit pricier in the UK, and for me personally, if I had to pick one shoe, I think it would still be the Vaporfly 4. But then, as I often say in these, I don't mind going long in a shoe that's less cushioned, a bit more kind of ground feel, I don't mind a bit more of the road coming back up. I'd sort of happy to sort of pick my feet and move through that. So if you don't mind that kind of thing, then I think the Vapor is a very good option as well. It'd be the one that I would go for first.
So my verdict on these two shoes, pretty easy one actually. And to be honest, neither of these is really a shoe that I would put in my top 5, maybe even top 10 carbon plate shoes at the moment. I think they're definitely shoes that are pretty good carbon plate race shoes for a certain type of person, but I don't think they're in the upper echelons of the best carbon plate shoes that are available. And when you're buying carbon plate shoes, that's a big factor because the price is so high. And the SE Elite V6 is an expensive shoe, significantly more expensive than the Vaporfly, which I think went down in price pretty quickly after it was released, which probably suggests that it wasn't really a shoe that interested a lot of people. But I would say between these two shoes, I think the SE Elite V5 is the superior shoe. I think it's more versatile. I think it's closer to those top tier race shoes that are out there. I think if I only owned this shoe, I think I would be happy to use it for 5Ks up to marathon distance. Because I own lots of other shoes, I wouldn't use this for many races. Part one today was absolutely fine in it. I think for short distances, the marginal gains that you're going to get from this against Vaporfly 4 or other shoes is small, so it's not a big deal. But I think if I used it for a half marathon, which I did do for the big half, I didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of the other shoes that I've got. But I think it's comfortable. I think it's fast. I think it ticks a lot of boxes. I just think it's going up against some really big players at the moment, and I think it just loses a bit of it. And I think the thing about the SE Elite V4 is that it had that really big wide base on, which was a major selling point because it made it more accessible to a lot of people. This is less accessible now, which sort of removes the big thing that the previous shoe had over or against other carbon plate shoes out at the moment. Vaporfly 4, I would say, is a very niche shoe now. I don't think there's a lot of benefits you get from this unless you really want a sort of lightweight feeling, shorter endurance distance shoe. But really, I wouldn't put this in my top 10. I wouldn't choose this for probably any races apart from 5K or 10K, and even then the shoes I'd rather wear. I think so out of these two shoes, I'm going for the SE Elite V5 in terms of quality and what you get out of it, but I think there's better options out there instead of both of these shoes. Things like the Asics Meta 3 Sky Tokyo is far better than both of these shoes. It's got the lightness, it's got the speed, it's got the bounce, it's got the propulsion, but it just feels like you get a bit more back from that shoe. It feels like it's really pushing you to give you energy return back, and just has a nice smooth transition. It just feels just like you're getting a lot out of it, whereas neither of these shoes for me really feel like they're doing loads. They just feel like fast, lightweight carbon plate shoes. Other things I would go for, maybe Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. I love that shoe. It's a bit of a polarizing shoe because it is so soft and bouncy. Some people love that, some people hate that, but I think that's a superior shoe to these shoes. And I would say, because of the thing that it's really good at, it stands out. Neither of these shoes really stand out for anything, whereas if you look at the Elite 2, it does for that bouncy, soft feel, which for some people is exactly what they want. Whereas I think these, you'd be happy with them, but you're not going to pick them over a lot of other options out there. That's it from us on this Versus. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that little bell. And if you're going to catch me today, find to our podcast, which comes out a couple of times each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.